Despite this, the Council still clung to its belief in their superiority. They had faced countless species with strange abilities, and they had always found a way to conquer them. The idea of a planet of humans defeating them seemed laughable. Surely, the discovery of their enhanced vision could not be enough to pose a serious threat. The Council had more advanced technology, more powerful weapons, and their AI-driven strategies were unbeatable. But there was a nagging feeling in the back of their minds. They couldn't ignore the fact that this strange new ability of the humans could have some unknown implications. It could give them a way of perceiving the universe that no one had ever considered. Could this new discovery be the key to understanding how to defeat the Council's advanced technology? Was there something about humans that they had missed? The Council decided to investigate further. They couldn't ignore the possibility that the humans' ability to see more colors might hold some hidden advantage. After all, they had conquered so many worlds with their superior technology. Why should Earth be any different? But the truth was, they had overlooked something important. The humans were not as primitive as they thought. They had something the aliens had never considered, and that could change everything. As the Council prepared to send a new wave of scouts and agents to Earth, they had no idea that this discovery, this simple, yet profound, aspect of humanity, was about to become their greatest shock. They believed they still controlled the situation, but the human ability to perceive the world in a way no one else could was something they could never have anticipated. And so, the wheels of destiny were set in motion. The Galactic Council, certain of their victory, had no idea that they had just encountered something that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the universe. The humans' ability to see more than any other species could see would soon become a powerful weapon, and it was about to reshape the course of their invasion in ways they couldn't even imagine. This seemingly trivial ability to see colors had just become the spark that would ignite the greatest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. The Galactic Council had underestimated humans. They were about to learn the hard way that they had made the most dangerous mistake of all. They had underestimated the very species they thought they could easily crush. The scene shifts from the cold, emotionless vastness of space to the warm, vibrant world of Earth. In a small studio filled with scattered paint tubes, canvases, and brushes, Leela, a young human artist, is lost in her work. The space around her is alive with color, every corner filled with the hues of nature, from the soft greens of trees to the deep blues of the sky. It's a stark contrast to the sterile, monochrome environment that the Galactic Council's representatives know so well. For Leela, color isn't just a visual experience. It's an emotional one. It's the way she feels the world, the way she expresses herself. Leela has always been fascinated by color. As a child, she spent hours watching the sunset, captivated by the changing colors of the sky. She saw patterns where others saw randomness, connections between colors that told stories. This love for color led her to become an artist, and now her work was becoming more than just a personal passion. It was catching the attention of something far larger. Unknown to Leela, her creations were being studied by a group of scientists, curious about the complex ways humans perceived the world. They couldn't help but wonder how it was possible for a species to see so many shades, tones, and nuances, each one filled with emotional depth. The Galactic Council, meanwhile, had dispatched a covert team of robots and AI agents to Earth. These agents, equipped with the most advanced technology, were sent on a mission to understand the human ability to perceive colors in a way no alien species ever had. The Council knew that humans seeing more than the basic spectrum of colors might have deeper implications. What could this strange phenomenon mean? Could it be the key to understanding a hidden power in humanity, one that could give them an advantage in the upcoming war? The AI agents and robots arrived on Earth, their sleek metallic bodies hidden beneath cloaks, ensuring they remained undetected by human eyes. They were on a mission to study, to learn, and to gather as much information as possible about the humans' connection to color. They began by observing Layla's art, noting how each stroke of her brush seemed to evoke emotions: joy, sadness, anger, serenity, emotions that were tied to the very colors she used. The agents analyzed the paintings with clinical precision, attempting to understand the chemical processes behind human vision. But what they didn't expect was the emotional resonance of each painting, something they could not replicate in their own understanding of color. As the AI agents studied Leela's works, they observed something more profound, something they couldn't process. Each painting seemed to carry a story of its own, a narrative created through color that only humans could truly understand. The robots, designed to analyze and replicate, could mimic the appearance of color, but they could not grasp the emotional connection that humans had to it. Every time they tried to interact with the colors, to synthesize them into something meaningful, they failed to evoke any of the emotions Leila's work triggered in her or anyone else. Leila's artwork seemed to be alive, imbued with an energy that the aliens couldn't grasp. Each color, carefully chosen and applied, conveyed an emotional landscape that was beyond the reach of AI or robotic systems. The robots couldn't feel the warmth of the red tones, the calm of the blues, or the sense of hope in a splash of yellow. They could only see the colors for their physical properties, wavelengths of light, chemical compositions, but they couldn't experience the deeper emotional connection that humans did. This revelation set off a chain of events that the Galactic Council had not anticipated. Meanwhile, as Leela continued her work, unaware of the alien presence, the situation became increasingly tense. The robots and AI agents, unable to replicate the emotional essence of the human perception of color, began to question their mission. They were failing. How could something so simple, so elemental, be so complex? The AI agents, designed to learn and adapt, started to grow frustrated. Their inability to understand the human connection to color shook their confidence. They had always been taught that emotion was something that could be calculated, predicted, and replicated. But this human experience was beyond them. The tension between the human world and the alien forces grew. The robots tried to continue their mission, but the emotional depth of the colors, the way Leila's art seemed to capture the very essence of humanity, was something they couldn't ignore. They found themselves lost in the beauty of Earth's landscapes, the vibrant greens of forests, the fiery reds of sunsets, and the brilliant blues of oceans. It wasn't just the colors. They were struck by the vastness of it all. Earth's natural beauty, the way it was perceived by humans, was something so alive and full of meaning that it couldn't be reduced to data or calculations. Leila's art wasn't just about color. It was about storytelling. Every brushstroke was a part of a greater narrative that the humans understood but the aliens could not. The Galactic Council had thought they were sending a team to study a primitive species' perception of color. They had expected the robots to gather data and return with useful information to aid their plans for conquest. But what the agents found on Earth was far more than they could have imagined. They found something they could not understand or control. As the AI agents grew more desperate, they began to question their own existence. What was the point of their mission if they couldn't understand what they were seeing? They had been created to observe, to learn, and to calculate, but now they faced something they could not quantify. They began to realize that their sense of superiority, based on their technology and their ability to control, might not be enough to conquer a species as complex and deeply connected to their world as humanity. Leela, still unaware of the alien forces watching her, continued to work in her studio, pouring her soul into her paintings. Little did she know that her creations were more than just art. They were a window into humanity's greatest strength. The Galactic Council had believed that their technology would ensure their victory over Earth. They thought the humans were nothing more than primitive beings. But now, they were starting to see that the humans had something they didn't. A deep emotional connection to their world, a connection that the aliens could never replicate. The robots and AI agents, having failed in their mission to understand the full power of human perception, now found themselves questioning the purpose of their invasion. Could they really conquer a species so intricately tied to their emotions, their environment, and their sense of self? Could they defeat a species whose very connection to color could fuel their resistance in ways the Council never imagined? And so, the first cracks in the Galactic Council's plans began to appear. The very thing they had underestimated, the emotional power of human perception, was about to become a key factor in the upcoming war. The agents, once so confident in their superior knowledge, had just realized that there was more to humanity than they had ever imagined. The Galactic Council had finally come to terms with something they had never considered. Humanity was not the primitive, insignificant species they had thought it to be. The human connection to color, something the aliens couldn't comprehend, now seemed like a force to be reckoned with. The Council knew they had to act quickly before the humans could fully unlock the potential of their unique perception. Their plans were set in motion. It was time for Earth to be conquered. The Galactic Council deployed cloaked warships, massive, powerful vessels equipped with the latest in alien technology. AI-controlled fleets were ready, their programming fine-tuned for destruction. These warships were invisible to Earth's radar systems, making it nearly impossible for humanity to anticipate the invasion. The aliens believed that with their advanced weaponry, vast armies, and technological superiority, they would crush Earth's defenses in a matter of hours. They had no doubt that victory was certain. The first wave of the invasion was silent. The warships glided through space, their cloaking devices keeping them hidden from view. From the control room aboard one of these ships, the Council watched in anticipation. Their objective was clear: to take control of Earth, neutralize any form of resistance, and harness the power of the planet's resources. Earth's colorful world, so deeply intertwined with human emotion, was now seen as a commodity to be exploited. But the aliens were blind to the strength that lay within the humans' emotional connection to their world. On Earth, the response was far less prepared. The human military, while brave and determined, had underestimated the sheer scope of the alien threat. Government officials scrambled to issue orders, and soldiers were put on high alert. But they were outmatched. The alien forces were unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The military's advanced technology, while formidable by Earth standards, was nothing compared to the AI-controlled warships and the relentless firepower the aliens had at their disposal. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Military bases across the globe braced for the inevitable. In the heart of the military command center, screens flashed with warnings. Unknown ships were approaching, too fast to intercept. Satellites detected strange energy signatures in the sky, and reports began pouring in from military outposts about strange phenomena. Shadows flickering in the clouds, lights that shouldn't be there. The countdown had begun. Earth was on the verge of its greatest battle, and no one knew if they could survive. In the midst of all this chaos, Layla's brother, Bonner, a soldier in the Earth Defense Force, stood at attention, his face grim. He had trained for this moment his entire life, but nothing could have prepared him for what was coming. When he received the orders to fight, the weight of responsibility hit him harder than ever before. The reality of the situation became painfully clear. This could very well be the last time he saw his family. Bonner had always been close to his sister Layla. He remembered the countless times she had drawn pictures for him, telling stories through her art that seemed to come alive with the colors she used. Now, as he stood there, holding his military gear, the thought of never seeing her again filled him with a deep, aching sorrow. The invasion was happening. There was no time for second thoughts. He walked to his family's home one last time. His parents were already preparing for what lay ahead. They didn't have to say much. The heavy silence between them spoke volumes. His mother held him tightly, her eyes filled with unshed tears, while his father, a former soldier himself, gave him a firm handshake, his grip strong but shaking. They all knew the risks, but the hope for survival remained. Leela, however, was different. She had seen the changes in Bonner's eyes, the way his shoulders had become more burdened as the war loomed closer. She tried to put on a brave face, but deep down, She knew that the world she had once known was about to change forever. She tried to tell him to be safe, but the words got stuck in her throat. She knew that the battle wasn't just about winning. It was about survival. And in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling that something else was at play here. The alien forces weren't just attacking. They were after something deeper, something they didn't fully understand. The farewell was brief. Bonner kissed his family goodbye, promising to return. As he left, he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He knew the stakes were high, and the chances of survival were slim, but he had no choice. The call of duty had come, and he would fight, not just for his family, but for all of humanity. As Bonner and his fellow soldiers boarded the transport ships, preparing for the fight of their lives, the first alien warships entered Earth's atmosphere. It was a silent invasion, but their presence was undeniable. The sky above darkened with the arrival of the cloaked ships, and the ground below began to tremble with the sound of alien technology powering up. Bonner and his team were deployed to the front lines, their mission clear: defend their planet at all costs. As they rushed toward the battlefield, the atmosphere grew heavy with anticipation. They knew the aliens were technologically superior, but there was something else, an unspoken bond between the soldiers, a sense of unity that came from being part of something greater than themselves. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the future of their world, for everything they held dear. The first wave of alien attacks hit swiftly. The warships released their advanced weapons, tearing into Earth's defenses with ease. Military bases were obliterated in seconds, and the human forces scrambled to retaliate, but they were ill-equipped for the scale of the assault. Laser beams ripped through buildings, sending shockwaves through the ground. The air was filled with the sounds of explosions, of engines roaring, and of people screaming. It was chaos. Bonner's heart raced as he and his team fought bravely against the overwhelming alien force. He could feel the heat of the blasts as they narrowly avoided destruction. Every moment was a fight for survival, and as the alien forces seemed to close in from all directions, Bonner couldn't help but think of his family. Would he survive this? Would they? But as the battle raged on, something began to shift. The human soldiers, though outnumbered and outgunned, fought with everything they had. They were driven by something that the aliens couldn't understand, a fierce will to protect their home, their loved ones, and everything they held sacred. It was a force that no eye, no matter how powerful, could replicate. As the first explosions rocked the battlefield, Bonner knew that this was just the beginning. The invasion had begun, but humanity's fight for survival was far from over. The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the aliens had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity's will to fight. The battle for Earth was at its peak, and the human forces, though heavily outmatched, were far from giving up. Alien warships continued to launch devastating attacks from above, and ground forces clashed violently with human defenders. The odds seemed impossible. But in the midst of chaos, something unexpected was happening. Humanity's unique connection to color, something the alien forces had overlooked, was becoming a powerful weapon. Leela's artwork, once thought to be just an expression of human creativity, became a turning point in the war. Her vibrant paintings, which had captured the complexity of human emotion, were now used in a way no one could have predicted. Scientists and engineers, who had been studying her work for months, adapted her color-based designs into advanced light-based energy weapons. These weapons harnessed the power of color, using it to manipulate light and energy in ways the aliens couldn't comprehend. The human forces quickly realized that their connection to color wasn't just artistic, it was an emotional and tactical advantage. The human ability to perceive and interact with a spectrum of colors that the aliens couldn't process became the key to their survival. The weapons created from Leela's art used bursts of color to blind, disorient, and confuse the alien invaders. These light-based attacks could interfere with the highly advanced alien technology, disrupting cloaking devices and causing their once invisible warships to flicker and reveal themselves to Earth's defense systems. The battlefield erupted in a frenzy of color and light. Explosions of brilliant hues filled the sky, casting everything in a kaleidoscope of bright reds, blues, greens, and purples. The human soldiers, equipped with high-tech gear designed to harness the power of color, launched their new weapons at the alien forces. The effect was immediate. The once impregnable cloaked warships shimmered and became visible, their stealthy advantage gone in an instant. Human fighters, now armed with energy-based weapons that manipulated light, surged forward with renewed confidence. The ground forces, using Lila's inventions, targeted the alien machinery. Color-based explosions erupted on the battlefield, creating shockwaves that rattled the invaders. Alien robots, which had been programmed to be impervious to most forms of attack, malfunctioned as they were bombarded by waves of color. The aliens had underestimated the power of human creativity. Their technology, so advanced in some ways, was completely unprepared for this attack that was based not on force, but on perception, on the ability to manipulate light, color, and emotion in ways they couldn't even begin to understand. The battle shifted in favor of humanity. The once confident alien invaders began to falter as their systems, disrupted by the color-based attacks, malfunctioned. Cloaked ships were exposed, their camouflage shattered by brilliant beams of color. Alien soldiers found themselves blinded, disoriented, unable to function as they had been trained. The humans, with their deep connection to color, had discovered a way to weaponize the very thing the aliens had taken for granted. It was an emotional weapon, one that struck at the heart of the alien invaders' superiority complex. The more they tried to adapt, the more they realized they could not understand the power that humans held in their perception of color. As the battle raged on, the battlefield became a war of light and shadow, of color and chaos. The sky above Earth, once darkened by the shadow of alien ships, now glowed with the vibrant energy of humanity's newfound weapon. Explosions of every color imaginable lit up the night, sending shockwaves through the ground as humans fought with a mix of creativity and technology. The once overwhelming alien forces, confident in their advanced weaponry and tactics, were now caught off guard. They had come to Earth believing that they could crush humanity with sheer force, but they had failed to account for the unexpected, humanity's emotional connection to their world, and their ability to manipulate it through the power of color. The alien forces, once so sure of their victory, began to retreat. The human soldiers, armed with their new color-powered technology, pushed forward. What had started as an impossible struggle was now turning into a fight humanity could win. The Galactic Council, watching from afar, could hardly believe what they were seeing. How had humans, a species they had once considered primitive and insignificant, managed to turn the tide of battle in their favor with nothing more than their connection to color? The retreat of the alien forces only fueled the fire of determination in the hearts of humanity's defenders. The soldiers fought harder than ever, knowing that their world, their way of life, was at stake. With each blast of color, with each explosion of light, they proved that the strength of their emotions, their creativity, their love for their world, was more powerful than anything the aliens could have imagined. The humans had found their weapon, and it was unlike anything the Galactic Council had prepared for. The color-based energy weapons were not just a physical force. They were a reflection of humanity's spirit, of their ability to see the world in a way the aliens could not. It was an unexpected advantage, and it was one the aliens could not hope to defeat. As the tide of battle turned, Bonner, Leela's brother, fought alongside his comrades, witnessing firsthand the power of this new weapon. He had seen the destruction, the death, and the chaos, but now he saw something else: hope. The humans were fighting back with everything they had, and for the first time, it seemed like they might actually win. The once unimaginable victory was now within reach, and the alien forces, who had expected an easy conquest, were finally beginning to understand that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. As the human forces pushed forward, they continued to wield their new weapon of color with precision. Each burst of light, each explosion of color, served as a reminder that humanity had found its strength in the most unexpected place. The battle for Earth was far from over, but humanity now had the upper hand, and the alien invaders were finally learning that they had made a grave mistake in underestimating the power of human creativity and emotion. The war that had ravaged Earth was drawing to a close. The alien forces, once so confident in their advanced technology and overwhelming power, were now in retreat. The humans had discovered a strength they had never known, a connection to color, an ability to use their emotional bond with their world to turn the tide of battle. But this victory, so hard-won, had come at a tremendous cost. Bonner, Layla's brother, had been at the heart of the fighting. As a soldier, he had put his life on the line to protect his family, his friends, and his planet. The battle had been fierce, and though the humans had gained the upper hand with their unexpected weapon, it had not been without sacrifices. Bonner was critically injured in the final stages of the conflict. The sounds of battle echoed around him as he lay on the ground, blood seeping from his wounds, his face pale from the loss of strength. Leela, who had been fighting in her own way, using her artistic creations as weapons against the alien invaders, rushed to his side. She had seen so many lives lost during the war, so many soldiers fall in defense of Earth, but nothing had prepared her for the sight of her brother lying there, so close to death. Bonner had always been the protector, the one who stood strong for the family. He was the one who inspired Lila's art, always encouraging her to see the beauty in the world around her, to create and express herself in ways that others couldn't. And now, as she knelt beside him, watching the life drain from his body, she realized just how much of an impact his loss would have on her life. He had always been her rock, and now he was slipping away. Tears blurred her vision, but she couldn't look away. Bonner, his breath shallow and weak, reached for her hand. His words were barely audible, but the love in his eyes was unmistakable. "Leela," he whispered, his voice rough with pain, "don't stop fighting. Don't let them win." Leela held his hand tightly, trying to steady herself, trying to find the strength to keep going. But it was so hard. The grief, the fear, and the anger were overwhelming. How could she keep going without him? How could she continue to fight when the person who had meant everything to her was slipping away? As Bonner's body grew cold in her arms, something deep within Leela stirred. It was as if the grief, the love, and the anger that had built up inside her were all channeled into one single powerful emotion. She had always known that her art had the power to capture emotion, to connect people to the world in ways words couldn't. But now, in the face of loss, she realized just how much power her creations truly had. With a cry of frustration and sorrow, Leela stood up, her heart heavy with the weight of loss. She didn't know how much time she had left before the last of the alien forces would retreat, but she knew she had to act. She had to do something. She had to make sure her brother's death meant something. Leela turned to face the battlefield, her eyes filled with tears, but her spirit now burning with an intense, unrelenting force. The warships that had once been impervious to attack were now visible, vulnerable to the bursts of light and color that had turned the tide of battle. She couldn't just sit there and mourn. She had to finish this. She had to fight, for Bonner, for Earth, and for all the lives that had been lost. She channeled all of her grief, all of her love, all of the pain she felt into one final masterpiece. In a single explosive burst, she created a wave of color, brilliant, vivid, and uncontainable. The colors erupted from her mind and exploded outward, blinding the last of the alien warships. The ships faltered, their technology overwhelmed by the sheer force of the human connection to color. The warships sputtered and flickered, their cloaking devices failing as they were thrown into chaos. The alien forces, stunned by the unexpected assault, were unable to regain control. The Galactic Council, watching from their ships, could only stare in disbelief as the final push from humanity destroyed their last line of defense. The humans, using the very thing the aliens had underestimated, had won. Leela collapsed to her knees, exhausted and heartbroken. She had done it. The war was over, the aliens were defeated, and humanity had survived. But at what cost? She had lost her brother, her protector, the person who had always been there for her. And though the humans had won, the victory felt hollow without him. In the aftermath of the battle, as the alien forces retreated, the true weight of the war began to settle in. The humans had done the impossible, outsmarting the Galactic Council and pushing back the invaders. But their victory was bittersweet. The cost of war was always high, and now, with the battlefield quiet, the survivors had to face the reality of what they had lost. The Galactic Council, watching from their distant ships, could hardly believe what they had witnessed. They had come to Earth, confident that their advanced technology and superior knowledge would easily crush the humans. They had underestimated humanity's emotional connection to their world, their ability to see and manipulate color in ways the aliens couldn't even comprehend. They had thought of humans as primitive, insignificant, nothing more than a minor obstacle in their conquest of the galaxy. But now, with their forces in retreat, they had to face the truth. Humanity was far stronger, far more resilient than they had ever imagined. As the alien ships retreated, the humans stood victorious. But the victory felt hollow in the face of the lives lost. Leela, looking up at the sky, knew that her brother's sacrifice would never be forgotten. His death, and the death of so many others, had led to this moment. The humans had fought with everything they had, not just with weapons and technology, but with their hearts, their creativity, and their emotions. They had shown the universe that they were not to be underestimated. As Earth began to rebuild, Lila's artwork became a symbol of humanity's strength. Her emotional masterpiece, born from the deepest pain and love, had saved her planet. And in the end, it was the power of human emotion, tied to their unique perception of color, that had won the war. The Galactic Council had been outsmarted by something they had never even considered: the strength of the human spirit. The battle was over. The skies above Earth, once darkened by the shadows of alien warships, were now clear. The tension that had gripped the planet for so long was finally starting to lift. The Galactic Council's invasion had been repelled, their technologically superior forces defeated by the unexpected might of human emotion and creativity. But while Earth celebrated its victory, the weight of the conflict still hung heavily over the survivors. The cost of the war had been immense, and the price of freedom could never be measured solely in lives lost. Humanity had triumphed, not through advanced weapons or sheer military force, but through their unique ability to perceive and interact with the world in ways the aliens could never have anticipated. The humans had harnessed their connection to color, something the Galactic Council had seen as a trivial, primitive trait, and turned it into a powerful weapon. They had fought with their hearts, their emotions, and their sheer will to survive, and it was this that had ultimately won them the war. As the dust settled, the battlefield was littered with the debris of destroyed warships and the shattered remains of alien forces scattered across the Earth. The alien invaders had retreated, humiliated and broken, their plans for domination crushed by something as simple, yet powerful, as the human connection to color. The human military forces, although victorious, were bruised and weary. They had fought hard and lost many of their own. Soldiers who had given everything in defense of their planet now mourned their fallen comrades. But there was a sense of hope in the air, a feeling that humanity had proven something much greater than just their ability to win a war. They had shown that they could rise above even the most overwhelming of odds, using their emotions and creativity as their strongest weapons. Leela stood among the ruins of the battlefield, her heart heavy with the loss of her brother Bonner. He had been her rock, the person who had always encouraged her to see the world through a different lens. He had been the one to show her the beauty in the ordinary, to teach her that art and emotion had the power to change the world. Now, with the war over and the aliens defeated, she stood alone, her brother's sacrifice forever etched in her mind. But as she looked around her, something stirred within her. The Earth was still standing. Humanity had survived. Against all odds, they had fought back an invincible enemy. The victory felt bittersweet, but it was a victory nonetheless. The human spirit had proven to be stronger than the technological might of the Galactic Council. It was then that the emissary arrived. The Galactic Council, fully aware that they had underestimated humanity, had sent their final representative to Earth. This emissary, once a figure of immense power and arrogance, had come to negotiate the terms of peace. The alien forces had suffered a crushing defeat, and the Galactic Council now understood that they had been outplayed by a species they had once considered insignificant. The emissary was a tall, imposing figure, clad in a sleek, metallic suit that shimmered in the sunlight. Its features were obscured, and its voice, when it spoke, was cold and robotic. It had come to Earth not as a conqueror, but as a humbled figure sent to negotiate the terms of humanity's future. Leela watched as the emissary descended from its ship, flanked by a handful of its fellow council members. They had come to Earth, not to demand surrender, but to offer terms for peace. The message was clear. Humanity had won, and the Galactic Council was ready to acknowledge their defeat. The emissary spoke, its voice stern and devoid of emotion. "Humanity," it said, "you have shown us the power of your species, and we acknowledge your victory. We understand now that you possess abilities we did not foresee, abilities that we cannot replicate. We come to you not as invaders, but as equals. Your victory was not just over our technology, but over our understanding of the universe itself." Leela stood at the front, her heart still heavy with grief. But there was a sense of pride in her as well. Humanity had fought, not with the weapons the aliens had expected, but with something far more powerful: their connection to the world, to their emotions, and to the very essence of what it meant to be human. "You came here to conquer," Leela said, her voice steady, "but you underestimated us. You thought we were weak, that we couldn't see the world the way you do. But we see more than just what's in front of us. We see the world through our hearts, through our emotions, and that's what made us strong. You didn't win because you had better weapons. You lost because you didn't understand what it means to be human." The emissary stood silent for a moment, its mechanical mind processing the words it had just heard. There was no argument, no rebuttal. It had come to Earth expecting to dominate, but it had left with nothing but a bruised ego and a new understanding of what true power was. "We accept your terms," the emissary finally said, its voice softer now, almost contemplative. "The Galactic Council will no longer seek to invade Earth. We will leave you in peace, for we now understand the value of your existence." The emissary turned, signaling for its companions to follow. The alien ships, once so menacing, slowly began to retreat, their engines humming as they vanished into the vast expanse of space. The humans had won, not through sheer force, but through their resilience, their creativity, and their unbreakable connection to the world around them. As the emissary and its ships faded into the distance, Leela looked up at the sky, her thoughts swirling. Humanity had proven that no matter how small or insignificant one might seem in the eyes of the universe, there was power in the human spirit, a power that could not be measured in weapons or technology, but in the emotions that connected them to each other and to their world. And as the sun began to set, casting its golden light over the battlefield, Leela felt a sense of peace settle over her. The war was over. The aliens were gone. Earth had triumphed, not because it had been the strongest or the most advanced, but because it had something the Galactic Council had never understood: the power of the human heart. With that, Leela turned and walked away from the battlefield, the weight of the war lifting from her shoulders. It was time to rebuild, time to honor the sacrifices that had been made, time to show the universe that humanity, in all its imperfection and strength, was a force to be reckoned with. And with that, the era of Earth's triumph had begun.